was establish food bank collection points within the town hall and libraries and other community facilities across the borough, and I think it's completely shameful that these are necessary in the 21st century in one of the richest economies in the world, even post-crash. And even this week we've seen food bank usage just hit 1 million, and I'm afraid it is not because we are now doing a good advertising campaign and more posters around. It's because people are going hungry and are unable to feed themselves and have to endure the indignity of going to ask people for a permission slip, whether it's your GP or social services, so you can go and get a free bag of shopping for your family. I think it's atrocious, and I'm afraid the government is completely out of touch on this. To take up David's challenge about, challenge about the last Labour government's inability to defend itself. I share your frustration, I really do. It is a complete myth that somehow investing in schools and hospitals brought down the global economy. I'll tell you what brought down the global economy. It was a lack of financial regulations, banks squirreling away loads of debts in special purpose vehicles, and a lack of oversight. It happened before and it will happen again because none of those fundamental problems with the global economy and our domestic economy have been fixed. If our spending plans were so terrible, then why was David Cameron pledging to match them pound for pound right up to the crash? If Labour borrowing was so bad, then why was borrowing pre-crash lower than it was when we took office in 1997 when the Conservatives left office? These are complete myths. We should never have let the Tories get away with it the last 5 years. So if I can convince one group of people, at least I've got you in front of me to hear the reality. And I'm afraid the other myth is that there is an economic recovery. If it were the case that everyone's having a better time and businesses are better off and families are better off, Lee would be sitting comfortably and the Tories be romping home with a majority in just a few weeks' time. But they're struggling. They're struggling because people don't buy the rhetoric, because they're not feeling it in their pockets. And we see this in our borough today, where we've got 5,500 people who are on low income. This is in work, in poverty. 5,500 people saw their tax credits cut by this government, and nearly 3,500 people in this borough are living in fuel poverty. If it's the case there are difficult choices to make, why is it those 5,500 people were asked to take a cut in their tax credits? These are in work and in poverty people, and yet the people at the top, on the top rate of tax, had their taxes cut. Those are the unfair choices that have characterised this government. That is why there isn't a recovery being felt by everyone, and that is why David Cameron is struggling to justify his economic record. Now, I know that we didn't regulate the banks enough when we were last in government. We have learnt that lesson, and we have learned it painfully, and that is why we are going to make sure we're tougher on city regulation, where we're going to balance the economy and help young people into work with a banker's bonus tax. It's those sorts of choices and those sorts of differences that are on offer in this election, not just nationally in the country, but locally in Ilford North, where you've got a choice. I don't buy this rhetoric that we're all the same. Look at the economic record and look at the economic choices. There is a different way. There is a better and a fairer way to balance our economy. It's not on the backs of the poorest. It's asking those with the broadest shoulders to bear the greatest burden. We did not crash the global economy unless we learn, unless we listen to the real reasons why the global economy fell around our ears. It will happen again. And unlike Rich, I'm not content to say that, it's the people at the bottom who suffer first and the people at the bottom who benefit last. It doesn't have to be that way. There can be better and fairer choices, and that is why Labour is going to tax the wealthiest, and we're going to take the poorest out of tax, which would benefit 37,000 working people in this constituency alone.
Of course no one wants to see the rise of food banks. More jobs, better economy.